Hi everyone, welcome to Here We Are, Brattleboro's community talk show. I'm Wendy O'Connell and we are back again today with somebody from the community. Someone you might know or somebody who might be new to you. That person is Lissa Weinmann. Lissa is a native New Yorker with a background in policy, strategy, and communication. She came to Brattleboro in 2007 and quickly became part of the community in a number of ways. By joining the Wyndham World Affairs Council and the Vermont Yankee Nuclear Decommissioning Panel, by establishing 118 Elliot as a community art space with her husband, John Loggia, and the co-founding of the ever-evolving and pretty fabulous Brattleboro Words Project, which connects us and visitors to our rich and eclectic local history through the creation of books, stories, trails, podcasts, interviews, maps, murals, and amazingly, a whole lot more. Welcome, Lissa.
Thank you, Wendy. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's really fun to have you on. And we got a lot to cover. You know, we will do as much as we can to touch on all those things. But first off, I think it would be interesting to hear how you, who spent a lot of time in New York City,
Yes.
Born and raised there, went to Syracuse to the Newhouse School of Public Communication.
Yes.
Went on to Columbia, and you end up in Brattleboro. How did that happen?
Well, you know, after John Loggia and I married, we had a couple of kids and we were really bursting at the seams in our apartment, but we couldn't really afford anything in New York. So we started looking for maybe, you know, something else. And I was working on a project and met a woman who had a friend selling her house in Brattleboro, Robin Weston, her name was. And her husband was Howie Brofsky, who helped found the Vermont Jazz Center.
Right.
So we came up and we met Robin and we kind of fell in love. And I always tell people that we came to Brattleboro for the air and the water because we wanted a healthier environment for our children. And we really never looked back. You know, we still have our ties to New York and friends and family in New York, but it was a great place to raise kids, and it's been a great place to live and explore our creative selves as well.
Yes. When you were at Syracuse, so you did undergrad at Syracuse.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Syracuse. So
We talked about that, right?
I have an affinity for Central New York.
Yeah, me too.
And you spoke about how you were trying to decide what to major in at that time.
I was raised by a single mom, and it was a pretty challenging childhood, actually. And I was the first in my family to go to college. And my mother lobbied hard for me to stay in New York, but I wanted to get out of Dodge. So I went to Syracuse, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to major in.
Yeah.
So I used to think I would like to be a forester because I love nature and the forest. But I was also drawn to storytelling and journalism. So I had enrolled in Syracuse and then had to decide, is it the Newhouse School or is it the State School of Forestry? And I felt really torn by this decision.
Yes.
And but I eventually opted for the journalism because I started meeting people I got along with there, and I decided that was the spot for me.
Yeah, and that took you on a whole path, right? You ended up at Columbia, especially the School of International and Public Affairs.
Yes.
And then going on to get pretty involved with South America.
I worked as a journalist for a few years in New York and Queens, in different small papers around the New York City area. Worked at Outdoor Life magazine as an editorial assistant. So then when I went back to school, I got more interested in international issues. And when I got out of Columbia, I had an opportunity to work with someone I had met at a job who was starting a firm and needed help with the country of Venezuela, actually. So yes, countries have public relations representation in the United States. That's what it means to be a foreign agent. So I was actually a foreign agent for several South American countries for a while before one of the partners in the firm decided he wanted to go to Cuba. Cuba had never really been of great interest to me, but since I was fluent in Spanish, he elected for me to come with him to Cuba. And that began a whole different trajectory. And I eventually left that firm and started a program at the World Policy Institute in New York on Cuba, which I ran for almost 10 years.
And when you were involved with Cuba, you had dinner with Fidel Castro?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I had the that hallowed dinner with Fidel, which went on till 4 a.m, actually daybreak. He was very interesting, actually, very gallant. By 4 a.m, you're pretty just gone. And of course, you've had too much to drink and everybody is going on, and he was going on and on. We were told not to ask for autographs. He never gave autographs. He didn't actually seek to any kind of self-aggrandizement, strangely enough. I decided to brave it, and I asked him in sort of a cagey way. I said, Comandante, which is everybody calls him. I was like, could you give me your autograph, but not for me, for my son? And he looked at me and he was like, and people like, oh, you're not supposed to ask him for the autograph. And he said, what is your son's name? And I said, Spencer. And so he wrote on my napkin a little note for the future. I asked him to give my son a message for the future. So I still keep that.
What was the message?
The message was, Dear Spencer, well, it was in Spanish, but I'll say it in English. Yeah. To be educated is to be free. Fidel Ruz Castro. So, ser culto es ser libre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a bad message.
My fondest memory is when we all left the dinner, Fidel and the whole Cuban delegation were standing on the top of the steps at the National Palace and waving goodbye in the daybreak, all of them waving. You
come to Brattleboro, and did you get involved right away with Wyndham World Affairs and Vermont Nuclear Decommissioning? Where did you find your footing?
Yeah, I was recruited by Javed Chowdhury. Some people might know him because I used to attend Wyndham World Affairs Council events. And so very quickly I was added to the board, much to my surprise. And I really only recently stepped off the board.
Now, is the America 250 Town Hall series part of that?
It is.
It is.
Yes, it is. It's a program examining American identity in a changing world. And we do that with the, I still say we, Wyndham World Affairs Council does that with Meg Mott and Brooks Memorial Library and the Commons. So it's a combined program, and we've been doing this lecture series of town halls, looking at the language of the Declaration and the Constitution and how we can use that language to navigate our troubled waters today as we approach that anniversary.
And you've got Meg Mott there, who is the constitutional guru, wrangler.
Terrific.
That's right.
We love Meg.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
She can talk to any crowd, anywhere.
She can.
Anytime.
Yeah.
She's really fabulous.
It's a privilege to work with her.
Oh, I'll bet. Well, I'll bet it's likewise too. Yeah. You became part of Brattleboro. You got really interested in a lot of things, and I think one of the things that you said is that you got very curious about Brattleboro itself. What is it about Brattleboro that attracts so many people, so many amazing writers and artists and people who are doing conservation work, foresters, all kinds of people?
Yes.
What is it about Brattleboro? So what did you find out?
When I came to Brattleboro, I was sort of slowly segging away from my work with Cuba and sort of looking for something new to do. Of course, I was raising 2 children, so that was my primary responsibility, and I really enjoyed that. But I started to get interested in the nuclear power plant, and at that time, Vermont Yankee, it sort of fascinated me because it divided the community so much. So I had never really been interested or looked at nuclear power or nuclear policy, but when I came here, I started talking to people, and I realized very quickly, wow, this is a very divisive issue in this town. You really couldn't talk about it without creating a ruckus, which I guess is why it attracted me. So I started to, with my husband, John Loggia, we started to do a little project where we interviewed people about their feelings about the plant. And at the time, there was a debate about whether it would be relicensed.
Yes.
So we provided some of these little portraits, which we called Your Neighbor's Voice. and talk to people about their feelings about the nuclear plant, both pro and con, mostly con. But so we started to get interested in the whole issue of nuclear energy, and really very fascinated with the costs of nuclear energy, and also not just the financial costs, but the costs in terms of how it impacted the community with so many people being divided about it. About 6 years ago, I went on the nuclear decommissioning panel after the plant closed, and I have been serving on that panel for some time now, and I really enjoy that work.
During this time, you had little-ish kids or kids that were growing up,
Yeah.
and you did some Model UN experiments at the high school.
Yes, well, that was part of the work with Wyndham World Affairs Council. I took on this role of youth outreach.
Oh, good.
Because primarily my son, who attended, both my kids went to Brattleboro Union High School, and he was very interested in Model UN, and there was no Model UN at the high school. So I talked to the former principal, Steve Perrin, and he agreed that I could start a club. And so for about 5-6 years, I did Model UN at Brattleboro Union High School,
so
and took kids to different Model UN conferences in the area.
Oh, wow.
1 or 2 a year, nothing. We did one at the high school, but I'm a really big believer in the United Nations, and I think that more students need to be aware of the role it plays or has played in our lives. So it was really great to be able to share that with them, and also, you know, with Model UN, kids put themselves in the shoes of the different countries, so they get to see things from a different perspective. And I really appreciated that aspect of that work. We did start a new club through Wyndham World Affairs Council, working with our local Nobel Peace Prize winner, Jody Williams, who I got to know because she did a piece on the Words Trail. The Brattleboro Words Trail, and she helped found a new club at the school, which is called Peace Jam.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and so that is a club that looks at the lives of the Nobel Peace Prize winners, and the kids do all kinds of stuff with sustainability, and try to pick projects, community service projects that promote peace.
Oh, great.
They're doing a bike drive in May, and yeah, it's just a great group. I love working with teenagers. There are some really talented young people at Brattleboro Union High School, as I think you know.
Yes, let's go to 118 Elliot.
This year is our 10th year of running 118 Elliot, right across from the fire station in downtown Brattleboro. And it was really the brainchild of my husband and partner, John Loggia. It's been so rewarding creating this space for community, creating a space for artists, for Tai Chi and tango and improvised music. And it's really been a great experience. And it keeps evolving. This morning was painting walls, and it involves a great deal of physical labor, but our mission is to really create an affordable, modern, clean, attractive space downtown for nonprofits to use. And my husband, who's a painter and also a musician, has created an August new music festival called the Numu Festival. And people come from all over the region to play improvised music for the month of August. He works with Jeff Lederer, a local, a summer person who comes to Guilford, and he's a great saxophonist. And they do this music festival, and it's been gaining attention and popularity, so I'm really excited about that. But it's just, 118 Elliot is just a really wonderful open space, and it fills up as it's almost like we feel like stewards of it. We don't really control what happens there, but we facilitate what happens there.
It's a great space, and I think it really serves the community in a very niche kind of way that we didn't even know we needed.
I think that's true.
And it's very eclectic. You know, I mean, the literary festival at a fashion show, right, which is so fabulous.
That was fun.
So people can come to you and ask to use the space. And so therefore, you know, to have it open to the public like that, in that kind of way, I think is really wonderful. Also, your interest in 118 Elliot kind of started with a water cure, which I think also kind of catapulted you into another project.
Oh God, yes. Well, I think that with the work with Cuba and also coming to Brattleboro, one of the things that I tend to do is get people together. I'm an aggregator, for better or worse. And so I had heard about a grant through the National Endowment for the Humanities, the federal National Endowment for the Humanities.
Yes.
That was meant for rural communities, and it was meant to bring community groups together around a shared project. And I was like, wow, I'd really like to do something about the old water cures.
Yes.
Because 118 Elliot was across the street. It was its own water cure, the Lawrence water cure. But across the street was the famous Wesselhoff water cure.
I didn't know there was more than one.
Oh, yes. So the Wesselhoff water cure was actually widely known and was sort of a magnet for writers of the era, and politicians came. And it was all because of this really interesting character of Dr. Wesselhoff, who was actually a political refugee from what was not even then Germany, but the German, soon-to-be nation of Germany in the mid-1850s. Is when he came, and he joined with his brother, who actually founded homeopathy in the United States. And they went to Boston and created a health spa. But pretty soon after that, Wesselhoff was run out of town by Oliver Wendell Holmes and Nathaniel Hawthorne, because they were very angry that the women all liked him so much and that he was using hypnosis on them. And so it was a whole scandal. And he started looking around for another place to go. And he found that the purest water he could find in the whole East Coast was in Brattleboro. And there is something special about the water around here. And he started a water cure, and people came, presidents and all kinds of people came here. So I wanted to do something about that history because so few people knew about it. And it involved 118 Elliot. So I put a call out to about 40 different organizations in the area.
Wow.
And about 20 people came to discuss the possibility of doing this project. And we all very quickly came to agree that it was really the history of writing and printing and publishing and all the writers that had come through. And there was Kipling, and there was Saul Bellow, and there was the Esty Organ Factory, and all of these things had something to do with this theme of words and writing. So we began to think about that, and we put together a project, and lo and behold, we got the grant. And I co-wrote the original grant proposal with a professor from Marlborough College at the time, William Edelglass, who was really an expert in philosophy. He's a philosopher, but place-based philosophy. So William brought this whole underpinning of the philosophy of place to bear. And people like Rich Holshoe, who was also one of the first people to gather at that first meeting, he brought the whole indigenous perspective about, well, what about before the written word? Let's go back deeper. Let's look at the land and how the land lent itself to this kind of happening. And then people like Sandy Rouse from the Literary Festival showed up. Joe Rivers from the Brattleboro Historical Society showed up. Star Latronica, well, actually at the time it was Jerry Carbone.
That's right.
Who was still at the library. He showed. And so out of that nucleus, we created this project. And here we are in 2025. And those first meetings occurred in 2016.
Oh, really? Was it just that? It seems like it's been longer.
I know. Well, but the grant came through in 2017, which was a matching grant even. There was no real pot of money. We had to go out and raise to a one-to-one match, which was really hard. We thought it was going to be easy. It was not easy. We didn't know what we were doing. But at the end of the day, what's emerged has really taken all of these disparate threads of people like Kipling and Tasha Tudor and the Esty Organ Company and John Humphrey Noyes and has woven them together into this sort of identity, which really speaks to this sort of literary identity of Brattleboro. And reinforces that. And so with the Words Project, we created audio stories about places. So it's not just, oh, look at this building, it was built in 1890. No, it's the story of the people in
Right.
that place
That's
and
right.
what they did there.
Yes.
And it's not just history, it's also current day,
Mm-hmm.
because people like, for instance, you must know Pablo Medina, the Cuban writer and essayist who lives in Williamsville.
Mm-hmm.
He just had his story put on the Words Trail.
So great.
Or Chuck Collins, who is probably the preeminent expert on income inequality and has written many, many books in his life. He's on the Words Trail and is still here.
Yeah.
So it's a historical project, but it's also a look at what's happening today. And the other thing that was really a hallmark of the project is we reached into the community and got normal people to tell these stories.
Right. It's really interesting because kind of everybody's a stakeholder in one way or another.
That's exactly it. And so if you do a story about Nalaka, the Kipling house, and you create an audio story about it and a page and some reference point for it, and you put it on the map, that's terrific for Landmark Trust that runs Nalaka.
Right.
Suddenly they have an asset that they didn't have before to help promote. And we did that with the retreat farm, with the petroglyphs that are the indigenous petroglyphs in the West River.
Yes.
And what we've been doing is just linking community members to places and experts and archival resources.
Yeah, the geography too, I think, is such a big part of that. Like Annette Spaulding finding the petroglyphs, right?
Yes.
And Curtis Reed talking about his project,
the African American Heritage Trail. Yes,
the trail.
It's been several years that we've been building the Words Trail. And of course we also published the book Print Town.
Yes.
The book is going into its second edition right now, and its fourth printing.
If you open this up and you start looking, you just want to keep, it's like historical photos in general.
It is.
Because you know these places. You know these places, you know these people.
After all this time, we've been continuing this work on telling these stories. We just added Margaret MacArthur, for instance.
Oh, good, yeah.
And her singing and folk storytelling, basically, through song. A lot of families have been involved in the project, actually, like the Hooper, Howard C. Rice family up on Chestnut Hill. They were the Reformer family, basically. Their ancestor, Howard Rice, was editor of the Reformer for 40 years, from like 1900 to 1940.
And the ski jump, there's another place.
It's a deep mapping, is what they call it in philosophical terms. They say you're going in, you're peeling back the layers. It's not just what you see today, it's what was yesterday and then before.
That's right.
And also different perspectives on place, too, because everybody has their own take.
You also have an app that people can access all of this on.
Yes, so the Brattleboro Words Trail app is free. It's available on every platform, and it gives you access to all the stories, and
so great.
It's GPS triggered. So if you allow your phone to pick up the GPS and you're standing downtown, you can literally see, oh, here's the Holstein Association. Here you can listen to a 5-minute story about that. Or, oh, there's the Anna Hunt Marsh Bridge. Who was Anna Hunt Marsh? Oh, well, she's the reason we have Mount Wantasticate preserved in the retreat.
Wow.
Mental hospital is all due to her. And it goes on and on, you know. So like everywhere you look, there's a story.
It's amazing. I mean, I knew a lot of this, but there are a lot.
I know, I get excited talking about it.
There's so many details to it because you have really, there's so many wings.
Yes.
That you've created. And
I just want to say, it's not just me. There's been hundreds, literally hundreds of people, which we acknowledge on the brattleborowords.org website.
Yes.
That have been involved, and even our advisory team is Star Latronica and William Metalglass and Chantilly. Chantilly was very active in creating African American Heritage Trail audio, but her big thing was bringing Lucy Terry Prince, the nation's first African American poet, to life.
Right.
And that was an early focus, and we put up a historical marker for Lucy at the Exit 1 Welcome Center, where almost 1 million people pass by every day, and now they see that there's deep roots for the African American community in Vermont.
Right.
So all of this is very satisfying. And Joe Rivers from the Brattleboro Historical Society was such an inspiration because he's been making a lot of, we have about 15 pieces on the Brattleboro Words Trail from Joe Rivers' students at the Brattleboro Area Middle School. And he's been making audio stories with students for many years.
Yes.
He's got a treasure trove of audio about...
There are 500.
Yeah,
close
that
to
he
500.
and the people from the Historical Society have made. And also Reg Martel, who recently died, may rest in peace, was a very important part of the formation of the Brattleboro Words Trail and did our first pieces. So there's been so many people involved. I could go on probably for the next half hour just naming names. Sally Seymour, Donna Blackney, Dave Snyder from Guilford Sound.
Right.
He, one of the things that's so great about the trail is that the audio quality is very high. These are not just these have music. They're highly produced. They're artistic pieces.
They are. Well, it's all of a piece as well. I mean, even though there are all these disparate parts, Lissa, if you go on the Words Trail site, which we'll have the information at the end of the show for people to check in with. It's a rich locus for all of this.
It is, and it's great for tourism too.
It's wonderful,
so it enriches the experience for people who live here and actually get involved. And we are looking for more people to tell stories. God help me. But we're still making stories because there's about 20 more stories we want to add to the trail. And we're preparing to relaunch the trail as a permanent exhibit on the side of the new Amtrak station.
Cynthia Parker Houghton doing this unbelievable mural, a ceramic mural that hopefully folks in the audience have seen. It's still at 118 Elliot.
The mural is essentially the biggest part of the exhibit. There'll also be some new text to help guide people through the mural, and some other features to the exhibit that's being designed by Cynthia and Chris Grotke of Muse Arts. Those are the two people. And Tom Bodette is helping build the box with Claude Blaget. Again, there's many people who are involved in this and invested in it. Jim Williams, a local architect, has been doing the drawings for Amtrak. So next spring, when the station opens, we will be unveiling this exhibit that will take the cultural legacy of the town and put it out there for all to see. The exhibit will be on the outside track-facing wall of the new station. It'll be available and well lit 24/7. And so anybody can go and grab a map. And the maintenance, we have a maintenance agreement. We've been busy with the Sunrise Rotary and the Friends of Brooks Memorial Library. And thanks to Sarah Coffey and Dave Snyder, we actually have a little escrow account that we've created for the maintenance of the exhibit into the future. And visitors will get to sort of, when they get off the train, they'll see the riches that we have.
Well, that's what I was thinking too, is that part of town. Now that that bridge is closed, you're bringing new kind of life to it. I know you spent the weekend cleaning up the area, the island.
Out on the island,
out there. And so just taking care of that area and making it available not only for people who are debarking, but for people who can start the Words Trail there as well.
Exactly. There's about 20 different sites right around the station. And we'll be adding a couple of new stories for Wolf Kahn and Emily Mason that will be pegged to the Brattleboro Museum and Arts Center. Working with Mara Williams and Melanie Kahn. But there's just, even across the river in Hinsdale, there's many different sites. So it's also a connector to our friends in Hinsdale.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great, because now we've got a new bridge that connects us.
I know that bridge is great. And so that whole waterfront area, I really think that the Words Trail will help anchor it, and people will go to the waterfront there. And it'll, I think, become a new town common.
It's a new experience. Yes.
I think the great thing is, like, it really gives everybody a piece of a shared endeavor, something to really say, oh, I was part of that.
That's right.
And a lot of students from the high school have done pieces, and I've had several college interns that have gotten jobs because of their association with the trail. So So there's mentorship that goes on, and it's been exciting. And now with this whole new crew working on the exhibit, there's even more people involved.
Yes.
So it's just been great.
It's amazing. And if you folks need any more information, we just gave you a whole bunch.
Yeah.
It's pretty fabulous. And if your name wasn't mentioned, that's hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So many people.
So many people and so many great stories. Ultimately, that's kind of what it's all about. Thank you, Lissa.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks to all of you for tuning in. And this really is, the Words Project is really quite an endeavor. But also, we got a taste for what's happening on Elliot Street at 118 Elliot, which is also something that is available for public use. You just get in touch with them if you have something going on that you'd like to share with people. And we heard a little bit about Vermont Yankee and Castro. Who could ask for more?
It was a mixed bag.
Yeah, very mixed bag. But thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week.